Hey folks, it's Brian Nemhauser, HawkBlogger on Twitter and Instagram. And if you are here, it's either because you're just curious, which is great, or because you had a common question about the money side of what we do here, what I do here at HawkBlogger, HawkBlogger Mornings, Real Hawk Talk, HawkBlogger.com, and so forth. If you don't know, this is something that I've been doing as a side hustle for many, many years, since 2007. And part of what's been great about doing it as a side hustle is that I decided to give away all the money that I made doing this side hustle to charity, which was not a lot of money, to be totally honest. And that totaled over $260,000 over 17 years. And that was not just money that we made from the show, but my wife and I also contributed on top. So, in essence, for this period of time, we have, I wouldn't say lost money, but we have not even broke even on what we've done with HawkBlogger. It also doesn't include things like paying for equipment or buying the gift for, someone on the show every once in a while, or anything else, tickets or anything else that goes on. So there's a lot of things that go into the show that I have just taken on as an expense, and that's fine. And I have no issue with that. And it's been a fantastic experience. So I've never had any concern about that. And when I made the decision this year, this is 2024. Who knows how long this video will be up? So this is 2024. When I made the decision this year, really just a few months ago, to do this full time, to cover the Seahawks as my full-time gig, and to walk away from my tech career that I had had for 26 years. One of the things that went along with that is trying to figure out what to do about money, because the reason I do this is not for money. The reason I do this is because I love it. And I think the reason that people tune into it and follow along with it is also because I do it because I love it. I think that hopefully comes through in the content and the passion and the obsession that I've got with this team. But I had a few decisions to make. And so I want to kind of address some of those head on and let people have this as reference and talk about it and have their opinions about it. I'm just going to tell you where my head's at. Doesn't mean that you have to agree, but I just want folks to have clarity. I'm going to try to be transparent about this all the way through. And if things change, I'll be transparent about that as well. So first question that comes up is, hey, is this still going to all be donated as charitable dollars? And the answer is no. The answer is no. It's not going to all be charity. I do have bills to pay. I have a child. I have two children, but one of those children is autistic and will need to be supported his whole life. So my wife is a social worker, works in nonprofit world. And so realistically, I need to make some money. I don't need to make as much money as I did in tech, but I need to make some money. So that's a little uncomfortable for me, to be very honest. I've done this all as a charitable thing this whole time. In some ways, I just love it to stay that way. But my responsibility is to my family. And so I do have to make some money on this. How much is still kind of to be determined. With that known, with that just being a fact, I could say, well, I'll just make it all income for me. And that's where the other part of this comes in. I don't want that to be the case either. I kind of want to have my cake and eat it too. I want this to continue to have charity at the center of what we do. And not only that, but my goal going in is that we give away at least as much money every year that we gave away in previous years. Now, how would that work? Well, I would need to make considerably more money than we were making in previous years, and then be able to still afford to give away the same amount of money that we were giving away before. That was roughly about $20,000 a year. Sometimes it was more, sometimes with corporate matching, which I don't have the access to at this point, but there are some times that it was more than that, but $20,000 a year was roughly what we did. And so I think it's realistic that I could build enough business doing this that I could continue to donate at least that much to charity. And so far, for what it's worth, since I started doing this full time, I've given away $4,000, $2,000 to Uchenna Nwosu and his foundation, and $2,000 to George Fant and his foundation. And I've got some fun stuff planned for later in the year as well along the charity lines. But to be realistic, I need to make a lot more than we were making before. And that's something that I'm working on right now. And the different ways that you make money. Well, actually, before I get off the charity thing, let me come back to that real quick. As I mentioned earlier, we've donated over $260,000 to charity to this point. I would love that to be $1 million at some point in my lifetime. I don't know how long it'll take to get there, but if it's only $20,000 a year, which is still, I think, pretty cool, it will take a long time. So I'm hoping that we can give away more than $20,000 a year, but that again would mean that I need to earn even more to be able to give away more. I'm not going to do it as a fixed percentage. I'm not going to commit to exactly what it will be, but I'm just telling you, like, the way I am thinking about it going in, what those goals are. It's all going to be relative. So this is not going to be something where, oh my God, if this blows up, I'm just going to be cashing in big. My plan is that if this blows up, some of that money is going to go to charity. We're going to increase how much we give to charity. Some of that money will go to things like guests. Some of our sponsors, some of other folks are already seeing this happen, but bringing guests on, not all guests are free, and especially some of the most popular ones are not free. And so sports radio knows this, and they pay guests that are on for full seasons, and they pay them a weekly fee and all that kind of stuff. There's other things like going on road trips to cover the team on the road, improving equipment, improving other things, and maybe hiring additional people to help create additional content. That could be more shorts and reels. It could be more film breakdowns. It could be a co-host like Jeff Simmons or whoever else that maybe they could make this their full-time gig. But again, those are like very optimistic if everything goes really well. So some of this will be income. Some of it will go back into the show. Like any business, you've got to take some of the money you make and invest it back in the business. And some of it will go to charity, which I think is unique to us and unique to what we're doing here and something I'm proud of and care a lot about. So how are we going to make that money? That's the other thing. And so if you're here because maybe you've left a comment, you're frustrated that there's too many ads in the show now, or, why do we keep talking about this? You have enough memberships. You don't need to have all these, ads showing up in your show. Well, let me explain a little bit of how this works. So I think some of it, which is if you're watching this on YouTube and there's ads showing up like from YouTube while you're watching it, I get paid a little bit, like cents on the, fractional cents for however many people see those ads. And so I need many, 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 many people to watch the show in order to make anything meaningful from ad revenue. And the Seahawks, as much as I love the Seahawks, are not the Cowboys. They're not even the hated 49ers or the Packers, some of these fan bases that have such reach, not only nationally, but internationally, that you can have, millions of people potentially tuning in to what you're creating. We have a little bit of very passionate, but a smaller addressable market, if you will, for total potential of who can watch this content. So ad revenue, while it's interesting, I think there's a limit to how much I'll ever get from ad revenue that comes from things like YouTube. There's memberships, which are incredibly valuable. And this comes in two forms. There's patreon.com/HawkBlogger. And then there's YouTube memberships. And in those cases, I get a percentage of what people commit in a membership. And so for Patreon, for what it's worth, I get a higher percentage of what people pay as a membership comes back to me. And so that's really, really valuable when people are Patreon members and, all the benefits. So I won't go into a sales pitch there, but really appreciate all the people that are Patreon members. Then there are YouTube members. And in YouTube, it's fantastic to have YouTube members. I think it's been great. We've had a lot of growth there. 30% of those YouTube membership commitments, the revenue from that goes directly to Google. So 30% of whatever we're getting in memberships does not go to me. And the other thing to be aware of with memberships, one of the things that I just absolutely love about the community that we're building around this show is that people are gifting memberships. They are giving memberships to other people so they can be part of the community, which is so cool. And then people are paying it forward. When they get gifted a membership, they gift memberships to other people. And I just think that's amazing and really, I think, true to the charitable, generous spirit I think we're trying to set with this community and with this content. But the reality is when someone gifts a membership, what that is a free membership for 1 month. And so for me, I can't count on that being recurring, repeatable income because the person may not renew. So it may be something where someone they're paid for 1 month. And to be honest, most of these, almost all of them are $2.99 a month memberships. And again, 30% of that goes to Google. So I can't count on that necessarily being there the next month. And so when I'm planning for expenses, when I'm planning for income and paying bills, I have to be thoughtful about how much of that is reliable revenue and how much of that is going to be variable. In this case, that's potentially highly variable. So I'm learning about that as I go, and we'll see how dependable that winds up being. But that's a factor. And I just want folks to be aware of how I think about that. And that's where sponsors come in. Sponsors, are a significant part of how shows like this end up being able to turn a profit and make some revenue. And part of that is because there's a commitment to how much they will invest, and because there is a more reliable, like 100% of that revenue goes to me. And so then I can decide what to do with that revenue. In the case of most recently, Pagliacci Pizza became a sponsor, and hopefully when you're watching this, they still are, because we want to be partners for a really long time. A significant portion, over like 60%, over 50% of what they paid to be a sponsor is going to bring on a guest I'm reinvesting that back into the show. So again, that doesn't go directly into my pocket. It goes into making the show better, because honestly, end of the day, I think the better the show is, the more potential there is for income and revenue overall. So again, you invest back in the business and you hope that that ends up being a good decision over time. So sponsorships are really important, and figuring out the right way to do sponsorships is kind of an art, and something I will continue to play with and learn about, and happy to get feedback on. Some of them are going to want to be a little bit more in the background. And I think Pagliacci is a good example of that, where, they want to really support this show and help it be great. And that's why I think them sponsoring a guest is such a great way for them to show up. And, Mondays, at least this season, the first season, are going to all be about Pagliacci Pizza with the content we create. And I think it's so fantastic, and I really appreciate their support in doing that. Another sponsorship I have, at least for this season, and hopefully that'll be a continuing as well, is FTN Fantasy. And for them, it's a little bit more typical of wanting to make sure that there's some brand exposure and that people are learning about who they are and what they do. And so that during shows, there's going to be a regular reminder about who the show is being brought to you by, and where to go to take advantage of what they offer. And for some people, they're like, hey man, the show's having too many advertisements in it now. Well, the fact of the matter is, those take 30 seconds at most, maybe 60 seconds at most. If you listen to sports radio for an hour, the reality is there are going to be at least 4 commercial breaks over the course of that hour. And of those 4 commercial breaks, a number of them will be at least 4 minutes. Some of them will be as long as 6 minutes. And so the actual amount of content that you get in an hour might be like 40 minutes out of every 60. That's never going to be the case with me. I'm going to experiment and figure out what's real. And so it's good to get feedback when people feel like it's pushing the limit. But for me, talking 30 to 60 seconds about a sponsor who's helping to make the show possible, I'm never going to feel like that's a big deal. And if that over the course of an hour-long show is 3 different times that I do that, and you're talking about 3 minutes out of 60, I'm not going to really be too concerned about it. And people might not like it, but I just want you to know that's not going to change. I'm not going to feel like that's too much. I will look for ways for it to be natural and to be a good addition to the show, as opposed to just saying words at you, because I'm a listener to a lot of podcasts as well. I'm listening to a lot of content, and I know how to tune out ads. So I want to find ways to make this really relevant. And that's part of why I also pick sponsors who I am passionate about, that I believe in what they do, and that, I would use myself. Maybe that's a rule that I won't always be able to adhere to. Maybe someone dumps a pile of money that it's like so impressive and I've never used their product. Maybe I'll do that. I can't say that that's off the table for me. But as of now, FTN and Pagliacci are 2 sponsors that I would be paying them money for their services, whether they were sponsoring me or not. And so I want to promote them to other people, because I want other people to discover, I think, 2 really cool companies that are doing really cool things. And I'm going to look for other people that do that as well. So That gives you, I guess, a little bit of context here about why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I'm thinking about it. And as of now, things are growing and that's great and exciting. But football is a little bit different than a typical job, and there's a specific part of the year. It's a season for a reason, and I expect that the biggest earning potential is going to be during the season. I've never done this for a in-season experience. I don't know what the potential is, but I do know it's going to be lower at other points during the year. And so I have to factor that in as well. And then once I figure out some of these questions, I'll have a better chance of deciding whether or not I can dial it back on sponsorships or dial it back somewhere else, or whether I can dial it up. All those things are unknown for me, and I'll learn and I'll adjust. I will say that, if I think we have, I don't know, 1,000 or so members, maybe more than that right now across what we do, I need that to be 5 times that, probably, at least, to be able to say, well, we have enough reliable subscribers that are paying a monthly fee that I can depend on that income, and I can make some decisions about maybe dialing back sponsorships, or maybe only taking sponsorships that don't include readouts during the show. Those are things I'll think about, but we've got a long way to go to get there. And if all you do is watch the show and click like and click subscribe, that is a way that you're helping the show. It's a way that you're helping this grow. I'm certainly appreciative of it. But I just want everyone to have some clarity about how I think about this, how I'm going to approach it, things I don't know, and the things that I'm learning. And if you feel frustrated by that, totally get it. If you want to turn elsewhere to get your content, I totally get that. My hope is that the content that I create, that we create across this channel and across HawkBlogger.com, is so good that it's worth it for you, and that you will listen and you'll support what we're doing and encourage us in what we're doing, and maybe save some of the criticism if it's frustrating. If you really feel like it's going the wrong direction and you're looking at it constructively, like, hey, I think this is going to hurt you in the long run, I want to hear that. So I will always keep my ears open. I will always listen. I think criticism is something that I value. I also just want to make sure people understand that content creation is a lot of work and it doesn't pay a lot of money. So, it's something that I'm going to have to balance between finding ways to generate income, finding ways to continue to make this charitable, and finding ways to invest in the show to make it grow and be great. And that's fun. I'm actually looking forward to those challenges, but I just want to be honest about the fact that it's a winding road, and we'll kind of learn about this together. All right, so that's it. Thanks for listening. If you got this far, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for caring, and hopefully this will be something that we just celebrate and see a lot of growth and a lot of change and a lot of great things coming your way. Hopefully great deals I can bring you, all those things. And I hope that you really support our sponsors, because frankly, a lot of what I'm doing and what's coming here wouldn't be possible without them. Definitely wouldn't be possible without all of you. All right, with that, I will let you all go and say thank you, and hopefully I see you at the next show.